I'd like to welcome you all to the Shloshim gathering, virtual gathering of our family, friends, mothers, sisters, uncles, aunts, to this Shloshim gathering of Menachem Mendel ben Shalom Krafchik. We're living in exceptional circumstances, but through technology we're able to all gather together, and we know by the Rebbe's Farbrengens, the Rebbe would always reach out and include the people who are listening via the technology. So we're all together in this. Just a few words about Mendel. Mendel was the sweetest soul that you could ever meet. He was very much like his father, Rav Shalom ben Avraham Moshe, and Mendel had many traits that his father had too. One of his traits was he was always smiling. He was pretty quiet, but he had a beautiful smile, and anyone who came in contact with him felt the love and a certain closeness to this beautiful, pure soul. I've been learning Mishnayos, and everyone, we've all been learning together, and hopefully we finished the Shishay Seder Mishnah. I would like to make a siyum on Shkolim, Perek Ches, Mishnah Ches. The Mishnah says, Evarei HaTamid, the limbs of the Tamid sacrifice, Nisanin Mechetzi Keves Ulamata. They were put on the half of the ramp, up on the ramp, a little bit lower down, by Mizrach, on the Mizrach side. The Shal Musafin, and the Kabbanas of the Musaf offering, Nisanin Mechatzi Keves Ulamata, the Ma'irav. They were put on the other ramp leading up to the Mizbeach. The reason why they were left on the ramps was because the Kehanim would run to say Shema, Krishma, and then they would afterwards they would take them back and put them up onto the Mizbeach, on the actual base of the Mizbeach. The Rashi Chadashim and the Evarim of Rashi Chadashim, Nisanin al Karkov HaMizbeach. They were put on a place on the level side of the Mizbeach, Milmata, where the Kehanim would walk around, and it says that the reason for that was that the people would see that it was Rosh Chodesh. They would remember. They would see they would put it in a different place. Hashkolim v'habikurim, the shekel that was donated, and the bikurim, Einei nahagin el b'fnei habayis. They were not given only in the times of the Beis Hamikdash. Aval ma'aseh dagan or ma'aseh behema v'habechoros nahagin bein b'fnei habayis, bein shalei b'fnei habayis. Ma'aseh dagan, which was from corn, behema v'habechoros, and the firstborns, they were given in the times of the Beis Hamikdash and even after, when the Beis Hamikdash did not exist. Hamakdish shkolim u'bikurim. If somebody is makdish, he consecrates shkolim and bikurim. Harezeh kodesh. They become kodesh. And there's a machlokes if it's talking about in the times of the Beis Hamikdash or not. Rabbi Shimon Omer, ha'omer bikurim kodesh. If somebody says the bikurim are kodesh, einon kodesh. Talking in our times when we can't give it, so they're not kodesh. Siluk Meseches Shkolim. Rabbi Chanan ben Kasha Omer Rotza Kadosh Baruch Hu L'Zakei Eis Yisrael L'Chicha L'Chiba Em Torah Mitzvos Shenema Adonai Chafetz L'Man Sidkei and the Torah V'Yadeh. I'd like to introduce a beloved sister of Mendel's, Dina Brown Krafchik. She'll be talking to us and giving us some stories and anecdotes from her home in London, England. Dina, please take the stage.
For all that know me know that this is completely out of my comfort zone, but I wanted to share about my brother Mendel. Mendel was the king of our family. We are 7 siblings, and Mendel was the only boy born after 4 girls. I remember the day he was born and the excitement we all felt being woken up on a Sunday morning to the happy news that my mum had had a baby boy and we finally had a brother. We all doted on him and took care of our chubby, content baby brother as if he was a celebrity. My father was a mile, and one of his happiest moments was being able to finally give his own child a breast. Mendel brought so much joy and happiness to all of us. Every step we were always so proud of our cute little brother. I remember feeling so proud at his opshare when I got to cut one of his beautiful ginger curls. I think Mendel was around 3 or 4, and he had this Shabbos coat and hat that he loved to wear in shul and would never take it off. He used to call it his kapota. As Mendel grew up, he became more cheeky and knew he could literally get away with anything. Even at school, everyone always had a soft spot for Mendel. He was the sweetest, kindest boy and always had lots of friends. When Mendel was 9, 14 years ago, our father passed away. This robbed us all of our childhood and teenage years in ways no one should ever know. But however hard and traumatic our situation was, Mendel always did the right thing and respected our parents. He went to shul to say Kaddish every single day for the whole year. He was so young, but he still did it, and every yahrzeit he did it for all of us. And I know how hard Mendel found this, especially doing it alone, but he did it for all of us anyway. Growing up in Leeds, there was never very much to do and not much of a social life. We would sit for hours and talk about all sorts of things. Mendel was always passionate about something at any given time and would tell us sisters everything he knew about it. Mendel took Shane and myself to our first football match in Leeds. We had no idea who any of the players were or what was going on, but we went along and had loads of fun, and Mendel was so happy to educate us about the world of football. We had many fun times together over the years, and I will always treasure those moments. Mendel always gave whatever he was doing 100% and never let anyone down. Mendel's proudest moments were when he was in the army. When we went to Israel this summer, Mendel was in the army. He was so proud to show us his uniform and gun. He always loved a gun and to tell us stories of army life and how he achieved such amazing things in the army. It really changed him and brought out the best in him. After my father passed away, I always told myself that nothing bad would ever happen to my family again. We had all suffered enough, and death became my biggest fear. And when I got the phone call from my mum, and at the same time my aunt was standing at my door at 6:30 on Sunday morning, my world crashed again, and my heart was shattered. There'll forever be 2 pieces of myself missing that will never be replaced. Mendel, I miss you so much, and the pain is so deep. You'll forever be in our hearts and mind. I love you.
Thank you, Dina, for the memories, the laughing, the crying, everything together. I'd like to introduce my brother, younger brother, only in age, Rabbi Shalom Doivber, known as Shali, aka Shali Leviton, Shliach of the Rebbe in West Windsor, that's in New Jersey. Was very, very close with Mendel, especially in the last few years, helping him with all sorts of things, and generally just reaching out to him as an uncle and as a friend throughout the years when he was in New York. And I'll give the stage over to Shali.
My name is Shalom Leviton. I am Mendel Krafchik's uncle. I'm the younger brother of Mendel's mother, Sarah. In deep pain and shock, we gather here across the world, wherever we may be, family and friends, to honor Mendel on his Shloshim. B'hashgacha pratis, we are apart, but we are not alone. Dear family and friends, the fact that so many of us are watching this brings and gives comfort to the entire family. In a very famous letter the Rebbe wrote many years ago to General Ariel Sharon, whose own son was killed in an accident, in that long and famous letter, the Rebbe said, the comfort you and your family should feel is in knowing that all of Klal Yisrael are thinking of you, because every Yid is a part of Klal Yisrael, like one tiny part of a guf shlema of an entire body. And we, Mendel's family, feel that way. We feel your love, your concern for us, especially on this Shloshim gathering, and we thank you for it. The Shloshim marks the end of the halachic Avelus, the mourning period, but we are all left with the question, what now? So technically on the calendar, 30 days has passed, but the pain and the numbness is just as raw as it was on the first day. So what difference does it make? Dear family and friends, at a gathering like this, we look to learn about the person we are honoring. And from Mendel, there is a lot to learn. Let's highlight his midas. Mendel had incredible midas. The reason why he was loved and beloved is because he loved. He was ehrlich, he was kind, he was caring. None of us can remember a time when he was angry with us, when he raised a voice. He would be the first to run to do a tova, to help somebody else. Who gets the credit for this? First and foremost, his dear parents, Rabbi Shalom Zichronim Livracha, and Ibad L'chaim Tovim Aruchim, his dear mother Sarah. They raised him in the ways of Torah mitzvahs. They gave him an incredible upbringing and, more importantly, an example. And that was the roots of Mendel, which he blossomed into his own individual in his own life. His name, Menachem Mendel, of course, carries the Rebbe's name. And it's no coincidence that in several days' time, we celebrate Yud Aleph Nisan, the Rebbe's birthday. And on this day, we look to connect with what the Rebbe personified for us. If I could have the chutzpah to sum up the Rebbe in one concept, it would for sure be Avos Yisrael, his love for every Yid, wherever they may be, whoever they may be. And Mendel Krafchik personified and lived that. Mendel had Avos Yisrael for everyone. The fact that he chose to enlist in the IDF, the fact that he chose to go on the front lines, meant he was doing a service for Klal Yisrael. And we honor, we salute, and we will never forget that. And we are humbled by that. Next week, we will celebrate Pesach. What do we eat on Pesach? Of course, matzah. What's the difference between chametz and matzah? They're almost even the same word. Chametz and matzah share the first two letters are the same, but the difference is in a ches found in chametz and a hey found in matzah. And those letters also look similar. Say the Mefarshim, there's a tiny little piece that's opened by a hey. And that tiny little piece represents a window. It means that the person is looking out. Mendel Krafchik looked out. He looked for others. He looked to help others. He was a matzah. He had no ego. He was selfless. He was kind. He was giving. He was humble. And that's the message and lesson we take on this Shloshim, that we try and emulate Mendel's Avodas Hashem and the life that he lived. The Alter Rebbe teaches us that a Yid lives with the times, which means with the Parshas HaShavua. We're in Parshat Tzav on Revi, and on Revi there's an incredible pasuk that says, "Vayaz mimenu ala mizbeach," that Moshe Rabbeinu poured oil shemen on the mizbeach. And Rashi says a famous line. He says, "Lo yadati," and I do not know where Moshe was commanded to do this. I don't see in the pasuk that Moshe was commanded to pour oil on there. The question all the Mefarshim, the Rebbe asks, of course, is, if Rashi didn't know, let him say nothing. What does he say? I didn't know. And the answer is, of course, that he means to tell us that Moshe Rabbeinu didn't need to be told this. A Yid who has a neshama knows innately to do mitzvahs. What is oil? Oil spreads. Oil gives light. Oil, once it's touched the surface, can never be removed. All of us here, dear family and friends who were touched by Mendel, are never going to go back to how we were before. We're always going to feel his presence. He didn't need to be told to do those mitzvahs. Yes, he was taught in yeshiva, raised by his parents, but he became his own person. And we loved him, we admire him, and we respect him, and we honor him now just for that. What would Mendel want from us now? And that's the question that we have to answer on this Shloshim. Many years ago, the Rebbe had a yechidus with a Yid who had lost his son, and this father came in and he asked, "What's the purpose of my life now that I've lost my son?" And the Rebbe famously told him, and he said to him, "If you could believe and understand that your son was in a far-off place, but he was safe and out of pain, could you live with that?" And the Yid answered, "Yes." The Rebbe further said, "If you could send packages and gifts to your son, but he could not respond to you, could you live with that?" And the Yid answered, "Yes." And the Rebbe said, "That's exactly your situation. Your son is safe. Your son can receive gifts through the mitzvahs that you do, but he cannot necessarily respond. Dear family and friends, we find ourselves in that situation to bring honor to the holy neshama of Mendel, and we are going to do so. We're going to try our best to raise our midas to the midas he lived, to the example he set for all of us. This is all good talk. This all makes sense, but truthfully, it doesn't ring how we can actually do this. And the reason is because we are in such pain. Mendel left us in a blink of an eye. He left us with no warning, and the pain is like a raw wound that's open. So how do we deal with this? The Rebbe himself answered and addressed this question when he too was observing a Shloshim for the Rebbetzin in 1988. On a famous Sikha on the Shloshim itself, the Rebbe quoted a medrash that said, the Eibusher was teaching Moshe Rabbeinu the halachas, the laws of Tumah and Tahara. And Moshe Rabbeinu interrupted the Eibusher and said, how is it that someone who becomes Tumah from something that was no longer living can become Tahar? How does that work? So the Medrash asks, what do you mean? Moshe Rabbeinu knew. He was told the technical details by the Eibusher. And the Rebbe explains in that Sikha on the Shloshim for the Rebbetzin, that's not what was bothering Moshe Rabbeinu. He understood the technical details, but he said, how do you connect the void, the heart that's broken? If you do 1, 2, 3, still the heart is broken. The Rebbe left it as a question. And his answer to us is, that gives us comfort today. He said, Moshe Rabbeinu had the question. If Moshe Rabbeinu had the question and still was able to live on, then that's the inspiration for us. Step by step, technical steps of mitzvahs we will do, even though our heart is broken, even though the questions ring out that we can never answer, we will still continue to do them to honor Mendel. Each and every mitzvah, each and every person in the own way we can. We will do hachlatas. We will increase in our midas. We'll do our mitzvahs of tzedakah to help others, just like Mendel did his whole life. The family is working on a special plan that you can all be part of. And when the details are worked out, that will be announced to all of you. And we ask you all to participate so that for many years ahead, Mendel will be remembered and we will be honored in the way that was fitting and he so deserved. We ask when a person passes from this world, did they give more or did they take more from the world? Did they leave this world brighter or darker? Dear family and friends, we know this with full heart. Menachem Mendel Krafchik gave far more to this world than he took. He leaves this world far brighter and far lighter than the one he came into it. And now that's passed on to us to do what we can, even as the questions linger and can never be answered and our hearts are torn. We do this to honor him. V'hachai yitein eliboy is what the Rebbe taught us when his own suffered his own loss. And we attempt to do that in the best way we can, step by step, encouraging and comforting each other. I would like to publicly ask Mechila from Mendel if there was anything that I did or I said that was not of the highest level of kavod that he so deserved. I true with full heart ask him for mechila. I want you all to know that the Eibusher sent malachim, I have no other way to describe them, angels, in the right time to ensure that Mendel's kavod was respected. On behalf of my sister Sarah and all the family, I wish to thank you and everybody around the world watching this. We thank you for your care, your concern, your comfort, your love. It is greatly appreciated. To my sister Sarah, to Shashi, to Chayela, to Dina, to Shayna, to Zahava, and to Shalamis. We are broken-hearted along with you. And we can only say that we will hold together through this, ba'achtus, as one. Mendel will be honored forever through the mitzvahs we will do. Hashem can only comfort you. And indeed, may Hashem do so. We're in the month of Nisan. Nisan is the month of Nisim, of miracles. May the Eibusher send the ultimate miracle with the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu, and we be reunited with Mendel, his dear father, and all others of Klal Yisrael. Amen.
Thank you, Shali, for those wonderful words of wisdom and inspiration and so on. We're now going to move on to the video, a collage of anecdotes, stories, memories of Mendel that were put together for the last month. Yaakov Zvi, his beloved brother-in-law, they were so close, you could actually call them brothers. They would talk almost every day, 2 or 3 times a day sometimes. And every Shabbos, Mendel was there with his friends at Chayela's house. And he's put together, with some help from some other people, this wonderful video, which you'll be watching now.
This is so funny. Hello, mate.
אני מאמין בו באמונה שלמה.
Even on your birthday, don't forget the more unfortunate people in the world, like soldiers. Yeah, happy birthday, Anna. Allahu Akbar.
Mendel. How do I think of memories of you, of Mendel?
I knew Menachem from the military service. He was a soldier of mine during almost all of his service at the IDF. But his service was full of tough experiences, and of course it's even harder for a lone soldier that can't meet his family once in a couple of weeks. Despite the difficulties, I can't recall a single time that I heard him complain about anything. He always did everything that he had to. Even during sleepless nights or endless quests, he was never down, always ready for more. He was the kind of soldier that every commander wants. One who doesn't need to be encouraged to do things, never to be punished. It was a great honor to be your commander, to serve with you, and to be your friend. Rest in peace.
Mendel would take out the times that weren't convenient for him to be there for others. But more than anything, the reason I think it sums up Mendel is not what he said, it's how he said it. It was soft, it was patient, it was succinct. But more than anything, it was targeted to the crowd he was talking at. He didn't pair something that was beyond the people. He was very, very sensitive, very, very in tune with the people around him. What a beacon of light and joy and happiness, and someone I really miss, someone who I'll forever miss, but someone who I'll forever carry around with me everywhere that I go. And one thing we've always done, Mendel, was we've never got together and not said l'chaim. In fact, the last time I chilled with you, we had a few too many l'chaim. I'll tell you what Mendel did tell me. Mendel went through all his siblings. He was telling me how much each one of them meant to him and how much each one had done for him. So Mendel, I'm going to take my l'chaim out, and I know wherever you are up in heaven, you'll be looking down and you're going to say l'chaim with me, and you're going to be watching out for everybody and storm those doors and get that Mashiach here, because honestly, Mendel, we're going to miss you. Mendel, we do miss you, l'chaim.
He was a great man. He taught the Israeli friends and me a way of modesty and quiet and politeness. They were quiet and beautiful way of expressing things. It was a great pleasure to be with you. You always made things work. A real man who understands that things need to be done even without asking questions. It was a great honor and privilege to command you, to serve alongside you, and to know you. I've learned a lot from you, and I carry your memory with me wherever I will go. Rest in peace, dear friend.
I remember about a year and a half ago, I was in America working in camp, and as soon as I finished, I called him up. I was like, hey Mendel, I need a place to stay, and he's like, of course man, I'd stay as long as you need, whatever you want. We went out, he took time out of his schedule. We spent a lot of time together then, and I'm really glad that I got to spend that time with him a year and a half ago, because I lived in Australia, and but he's such a beautiful friend. Really, he was always low maintenance. He never really required much attention. It's just kind of, you just want him to be around. I miss him a lot, and I think of him a lot, and I just wish his family and his really close friends as well just the very best.
It was a privilege and an honor to spend so much time with Mendel. I was fortunate to be able to get so close. Mendel was like a younger brother to me, and I look forward to the day when I'll sit together with Mendel again, have a Farbrengen together, share l'chaim together, the coming in Mashiach, Mheirov Yameinu Mamish l'chaim.
ומאז אפשר למנות כמעט שנתיים. והיום אני עסוק בהשלמה. בעוד רגע כבר אשמע את הכפיים, ואז אצעק בכל כוחי מהבמה. ואם שומעים, אם מקשיבים, עוד אפשר למצוא כאב בין המילים, ומבטיח לא אכתוב על זה יותר, רק בפעם הבאה ששווה. נגמר, 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 יש מדינה אחת על יד ירושלים, שם עדיין משתוללת מלחמה.
Good evening all. Casting my mind back to quite some years ago, when little Mendel was born, my memories of that was of it being a really special occasion. You see, till now, there had been only girls in the Krafchik family. So, a bit of rivalry here and there, a bit of friendly poking to each other, the sort of thing that Shalom and I used to do. And I would tease him. I say, he managed the girls, he can't manage a boy. Anyhow, Baruch Hashem, I do remember when Mendel was born. And the next time I saw Shalom, I said, Shalom, you got a boy. And he went, There's little dimples over there and all that. And he smiled, which was, quite an occasion when Shalom smiles. He says, yeah, money. I said, all right, Yonis, we got it. And a little while later was the bris. Now, the bris was done in the home on Scott Hall Road. And in the back rooms, the room that was later to become the room that Shalom had his bed in. But it was cleared up, and the bris was held. I can't remember if it was a Tuesday or Wednesday. Anyhow, we all turned up. It was middle of the day. And Shalom's parents were there, and obviously Mrs. Krafchik's parents were there. And also I remember distinctly that Aaron Dov came. Now, Aaron Dov was Shalom's mashpia. He was the one that sort of brought him in. Him and Henny Safman were the ones that brought him into the Lubavitch fold. And there were other members of the family there as well. And it was a very special occasion, a really special occasion. Shalom did the bris himself. I think he might have been a little bit nervous, but he did it. And I just cannot forget the joy that Menachem Mendel Krafchik brought to his deceased father now, and of course his mother. Soll sie sein gesund und stark. He was absolutely a little bundle of joy. He was a quiet baby as far as I can remember. He was cute. All his sisters doted over him, fought over him. It's the first boy they've ever had. He reminded me in his younger years of, I don't know how accurate this is, he might have been a lot of Yankee, in that he sort of looked a bit like him, but I could just be my memory running away with me. And he grew up. I just remember that Shalom would sit and canoodle him very, very nicely, a lot more frequently than I imagined. And slowly he developed and became a little boy. He didn't have a class of his own in the Menorah school. So he at first didn't quite join. I always thought it was because there weren't any of his age, but Mrs. Krafchik tells me, I must call her Mrs. Abelson now. She told me recently that was because she didn't want him to go quite so soon. So when it was his around Furnish, they sort of took him out of the house, marched him out of the house in the talus, and marched him back in the house with the talus, and they did it in their own home. I said to him, what was that? He said, well, isn't it? We'll make an iron Furnish, not going to school, so we'll do it in the house. And that's how he developed. And then Mendel became part of the school like all the other kids. He was a quiet child. He was not particularly boisterous or noisy or that. He was a lovely kid, softly spoken, very reserved, quiet, difficult to get anything out of him if he didn't want it. And the next occasion when we came up we came into close contact was, of course, when Sholem died. And he just didn't know what to do with himself. He was very easily close to tears whenever the subject matter came along. At his bar mitzvah, I spoke, and it was agreed, and we discussed this all with Mrs. Krafchik stroke Abinson at the time, that we weren't going to harp on about Sholem, but it was correct and proper to remember him. So I did remember him briefly, and it was like pressing a button, because it immediately triggered our emotional response. And then he wandered off in his own sweet way in different places. I remember thinking that, I remember the last time I saw him was at a wedding. I asked him how you're doing and that, and he looked very cool. I said to him, your father and I go back some way. One of these days we could sit down and talk about that. And he smiled at me and he said, I like that. Never happened, unfortunately. A lovely, lovely soul to have graced this earth. I think anyone who knew him will miss him for the rest of their time. Thank you.
Mendel, how do I think of memories of you, of Mendel? When I think of you, I think of our childhood together, how we grew up together. I think of mine and your story, how they intertwined to make who we both became, and therefore so difficult to isolate to individual memories. We shared a special connection, especially in our early years. Mendel was a very close friend, lived across the road, always helped. And those long English Shabbos, many hours for us to play. I think he usually came to my house on a Shabbos, and I'd go to him on Sunday. We had to mix it up a little bit because we didn't have so much choice of who we could hang out with. So when you're hanging out with the same person, you at least mix it up by going to different homes. I remember he always had the fun table in shul. Everyone was always hanging around with him and his father. So I used to sneak away from my own father and go sit with them. And Reb Sholem, Alav Sholem, he would poke at us. He'd be like, come on, guys, it's time for davening a little bit. And he actually encouraged us. Me and Mendel, I was a few years older than him, so I used to sit through. I went through davening with him, helped him to learn to daven on Shabbos, things obviously that he wasn't going to do in school. It was a very special time. Really fond memories. And obviously when circumstances dictated, so I wanted to continue this, and Mendel wanted to continue it, so I went every single Shabbos and I'd pick him up and we'd walk to shul and we'd go via the Shomrei Das to go to mikveh first. Mendel in his way, he'd never go into that mikveh. He was a Krafchik, but he'd sit outside while I did. And yeah, we would have some fascinating talks. And those are the memories I cherish. Those are the times that we became who we were in a world that we were trying to navigate as so young. But when I heard the news, I just sat and thought about Mendel and my relationship with him for a while. And I suppose it was really weird because one memory came straight to my mind, and it was a bit of a strange memory because I don't know where to place it, but I just think as I thought about it more and more, I think it kind of really sums up who Mendel is, who Mendel was. We went to the Shomrei Das, a little shtibel in Leeds, for Shabbos, and the nature of the Kiddush there was that everyone was asked to say something. I think we had all been away, maybe in yeshiva or wherever it was. So he was probably about 13, myself 16, and we knew we were going to be asked to say something. So I remember a few of us, we got together, we'd all learned like a sicha or something. We tried to come up with something where we'd sound intelligent and show off our oratory skills. And we all went round and we all shared our thing, and I just remember everybody nodding off and not really being very interested in what we were saying. What we had prepared to say was just not right for the clientele. And they turned to Mendel and they said, Mendel, can you share something? And Mendel was always a boy with few words. He didn't like to speak in public. He didn't like the light on him. But they managed to persuade him. And I still remember the Vart he said. I don't remember anything anyone else said. But Mendel shared a Vart, and he said that there's 3 tefillahs we daven every day. There's Shachris, there's Mincha, and there's Ma'ariv. And they're connected. The Karbanos in the Beis HaMikdash used to do 3 Karbanos every day, the morning, the afternoon, and the evening. And he said it's interesting that neither Shachris nor Ma'ariv do we use the name of the carbon. They're called Shachris and Ma'ariv. Whereas Mincha, we actually still use the same name. It was the carbon Mincha, now we still say Mincha. And he said the reason is because Shachris is the beginning of the day, you have time, you can set aside a bit of time to daven. The evening, you've come home, you're chilling, people actually might like to go to shul and get out of the house for a couple of minutes and just wind down. But he said Mincha, right bang in the middle of the day, you need to take time to break out and go and daven to Hashem and think about Hashem. He said that is a carbon, that is a sacrifice. A sacrifice is taking away from the time that's not convenient, the time that doesn't suit us, and to make that time for Hashem, to make that time for other outside of ourselves. And I still remember this word because it was very powerful. But I think it sums up Mendel. Mendel would take out the times that weren't convenient for him to be there for others. But more than anything, and the reason I think it sums up Mendel is not what he said, it's how he said it. It was soft, it was patient, it was succinct. But more than anything, it was targeted to the crowd he was talking at. He didn't prepare something that was beyond the people. He was very, very sensitive, very, very in tune with the people around him. And I know with myself, Mendel was always so sensitive and in tune. And I remember one specific case, I actually just got the pictures. Havison just sent me this picture. I'm so glad she sent it because I was looking everywhere to see if I could find it. We got dressed up in Purim, myself as a cowboy, him as a dragon. That's probably about 9, him 6, something like that. I remember Miss Krafchik had a camera. I don't think cameras were flying around so commonly in those days. She took a picture of us. And I was really upset because he was going to get this picture and I wasn't. And I expressed to him, I remember this clearly. I said, Mendel, I'm really sad. I really want that picture of us because we look so cool dressed up and I'm not going to get it. Anyway, a couple of weeks later, because that's how long it took in those days, you had to develop the film and get it sent back and everything. He knocks on the door with his mother and he gives me a picture. And he says, here, I've made a second copy for you as well. You should also be able to have this picture. And I kept that picture for a long time. I probably still got it somewhere. I don't know where it is. But I've now got it at least on my phone. Because that sums up Mendel. You know, he heard. I didn't ask him for the picture, but he heard that that's what I wanted. And he was sensitive and he got it. And, you know, Mendel grew up as an only boy, whereas I grew up as a boy of 6 boys amongst 5 others. You know, there weren't that many toys being bought for me. Mendel always had what he wanted. He had a lot of toys and things, but he was always so generous and always shared. I remember going around to his house. We would always play. It was always so much fun going to his house, eating rugelach with him. These rugelach, these white... rugelach, they had like this white sugar on them. I don't know, for some reason none of them used to like it. I just used to polish them off every time. Mendel... In our later years, we still spent some amazing times in Israel. Oh, we caused a lot of riots. Mendel used to, when he was just learning Hebrew, I remember he'd run around to people and he didn't know how to say, I'm your friend. He was trying to say, I'm your friend. And instead he kept saying to them, Ata chaver shalach, Ata chaver shalach. He'd tell them, you are your friend. But maybe that's also Mendel's message now. I think that he was inspiring other people to be friends with themselves. What a beacon of light and joy and happiness, and someone I really miss, someone who I'll forever miss, but someone who I'll forever carry around with me everywhere that I go. And one thing we've always done, Mendel, was we've never got together and not said l'chaim. In fact, the last time I chilled with you, we had a few too many l'chaims. We had some great chats about all the times of past. It's kind of eerie almost that was the last time that I spoke to you, because we kind of like went through everything in our lives, all the way from through childhood, through your difficult stage when you were about 9, and through Israel, and then where we were up to now is a good catch up. And it was odd, but it felt like also poignant, where we had a chance to discuss, and we said a lot of time. And I'll tell you what Mendel did tell me. Mendel went through all his siblings. He was telling me how much each one of them meant to him and how much each one had done for him. So Mendel, I'm going to take my l'chaim out, and I know wherever you are up in heaven, you'll be looking down and you're going to say l'chaim with me. and you're going to be watching out for everybody and storm those doors and get that Mashiach here, because honestly, Mendel, we're going to miss you. Mendel, we do miss you, L'chaim.
Hello, my name is Davey Harling. I'm a shliach in Las Vegas, Nevada. I never imagined in my wildest dreams I'd be sitting here talking in such a situation. It was honestly hard to figure out what to say and how to say it. So I think I'm just going to go down memory lane of the time me and Mendel spent together, what I learned from Mendel, how much he meant to me, on the year in Shlichus in London, and then the following year here in the United States of America. I vividly remember walking into Zal the first day. The Bachim were dancing by the Bruchim Aboim, and I saw Mendel, and there was an instant click. I saw Mendel, the Bacher, who has tremendous depth, and I found out very soon a lot of inner strength and tremendous amount of chen. I'm sure everyone says the same thing. And I knew right away Mendel was a Bacher I wanted to get to know. So I wrote some notes trying to go down some memory lane of some of the time we spent together. First of all, our accomplishments. I think it was Yutas Kislev, one of our Fabrengens. We took an achata together to start learning Chassidus every single morning. And Mendel kept to it. Every morning, could be the night before, we had a long Fabrengen, went to sleep late. Every morning, Mendel came to Zal. We sat and learned Tanya and then Maimorim throughout the year in Yeshiva. As well as by Seder Nigla, we learned and completed the entire Masechta Brachos, which Mendel felt was a big accomplishment on his end. He was very proud of it. As far as our memories go, some of the ones that stick out, there's too many to discuss, but one of them we took on Chanukah Mifsayim. We went together to Trafalgar Square for the Grand Menorah lighting. Mendel did Mifsayim there. We met then the mayor of London, now the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson. We took a picture together. I think even Mendel put his hat on the mayor's head. He was very excited about that. Purim, we went on a trip together for a grand Purim party and Megillah reading in central London by Mark Salem, the illusionist, was there. Mendel really enjoyed that. We went on trips together, Bernois in Paris for a Shabbos, Berlin together, Moat Mount, Wales in the summer. We had a lot of Fabrengens together where Mendel and I spent 4 or 5 hours to the late hours of the night discussing Fabrengen together. They were rather emotional, powerful, touched me really deeply, as Mendel and I both expressed and opened up a bit of what was on our hearts. I think the most powerful and most vivid memory that I can remember, Gimel Tammuz, Mendel and I went together to New York to the Rebbe for Gimel Tammuz. And Mendel got an aliyah, first of all, in the Rebbe's room. We went to the oil together. Mendel was very emotional. And my grandfather gave Mendel $1 from the Rebbe. Mendel told me on the way back how impactful and powerful that trip was and how much it meant to him and changed him. Mendel was always there to help. The Shloshim, the Alter Bachrim, the Hanhala, cooking food for Shabbos, it was setting up Fabrengens, giving out Farbeisen. He was always there without us even asking, there to help. And shows what kind of kind, nice person Mendel was.
Seriously speaking, he's somebody who we learned over Purim is mamish very geschmack to have around. Whenever something needed to be schlepped or built or put together, he was always there to help us. Hatamim, Menachem, Mendel, Krafchik.
Mendel had a lot going on inside, always had a smile. As I said before, a tremendous amount of inner strength. Notwithstanding what was going on, smile, positive, happy, to never once have anything bad to say about another Bacher, about the situation. Always positive, always with a smile. That was most impressive for me and something we all can learn from. The following year, when Mendel was in yeshiva in the States, he came to Las Vegas a couple times. Mendel did Chanukah Mifsayim with some energy and excitement. I just want to finish off that it was a privilege and an honor to spend so much time with Mendel. I was fortunate to be able to get so close. Mendel was like a younger brother to me, and I look forward to the day when I'll sit together with Mendel again, have a Farbrengen together, share l'chaim together, the coming of Mashiach, Mheirav Yameinu Mamish l'chaim.
When I think of Mendel, I think of an extremely, extremely close friend, someone that I feel very connected to. I remember the first time I met him was I got to Jets in 2012, December 2012, and he got to Jets on January 2013. So I was there for a month, starting to make some friends, starting to meet people. But I remember when I first met him was just after winter break. I walked into his room and we had a nice chat. And ever since then, we just got closer and closer and closer until we became roommates the next year in Jets. We kept in contact when he went to England for his break. So when we became roommates, obviously we become closer and we became really, really good mates. And there's so many memories I have with him. Wow, I can't, it's kind of overwhelming thinking which one, but I remember when about a year and a half ago, I was in America working in camp, and as soon as I finished, I called him up. I was like, hey Mendel, I need a place to stay. And he's like, of course man, I'd stay as long as you need, whatever you want. We went out, he took time out of his schedule. We spent a lot of time together then, and I'm really glad that I got to spend that that time with him a year and a half ago, because I live in Australia. And but he's such a beautiful friend to really, he was always low maintenance. He never really required much attention. It's just kind of, you just want him to be around. I miss him a lot, and I think of him a lot. And I just wish his family and his really close friends as well just the very best.
Thank you for the amazing video, and there are no words that have to be added or can even be added to what we've just seen. What I want to say is, my final thoughts. We all have to learn from what we have just been through. What can we learn from this, from Menachem Mendel, on how to deal in our daily lives? How can we keep him alive in our hearts and in our minds? He was only on the world for a very short time, but he personified Ahavas Yisrael, and he personified love for everyone. He was so happy, he was so tranquil, and if you look at a person's friends, you can see what somebody is really all about. The friends that Mendel accumulated over the years from all different avenues of life, from all different places, like you've seen on the videos. He was loved by everyone. He never had a bad word for anyone. Nobody could say anything but positive about Mendel. And this is a lesson for all of us, whatever stage of life we're in, that we can always learn from what he accomplished in this world, and through that will bring his neshama to a true aliyah. His neshama should have an aliyah, the Maila. Thank you all for watching, and we should only gather together in the future for Simchas.